you're live. Hello. Hi, everyone. Just give it a second. Hi, everyone. Kindly write on the chat where you're joining in from. We give you 1 more minute for people to join in, and then we can start. All right. Hi, everyone. I hope I'm audible enough. Mike, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Margaret.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Margaret Nakunza. I'm part of the Sankalp team. And I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you all to the Sankalp Africa Awards information session. So maybe a brief introduction of what Sankalp is all about. Sankalp is an annual convening that takes place in Q1 of every year, so between February and March. This year we'll be having the Sankalp Africa Summit between 1st and 2nd of March. No, next year we'll be having the event between 1st and 2nd of March. And yes, so it is a convening that involves different stakeholders from the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So we have entrepreneurs coming in, investors, foundations, DFIs, governments, academic institutions, and many more. Basically, every stakeholder that makes the complete cycle of an entrepreneurial ecosystem. Yeah. So today we will be taking you through the Sankalp Awards, Africa Awards information session. So the criteria, the why apply, and so that it can give you more leeway for you to complete your application, right? So with me is my colleague, Mike, who will be taking you through this information. So Mike, over to you.
Thank you, Margaret. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are, Michael.
Great. Perfect. So I'll just take a few minutes to take everyone that's attended the call today through the whole process of the Sankalp Awards. If you have any questions, kindly feel free to type them out on chat or wait till the end of my presentation to ask any questions. And with that, I think I'll just quickly begin. So, hang on. Right. Okay, great. So I'd just first like to talk about our approach at Sankalp. So we have a three-pronged approach where we, as an organization, look to support the impact ecosystem through three key focus areas. That's through knowledge, networks, and capital. Knowledge is mostly, conducted by Intellecap. Intellecap is the sort of like the knowledge hub for the larger organization, where we conduct studies in different sectors, some of which are focus sectors for the Sankalp Awards, in understanding, the landscape of these various sectors, and churning out reports that could build into the knowledge that already exists, and progress it or move it forward. And then we also have a capital where we have a fund, a Vishka fund. So a Vishka fund is a fund that's active mostly in Southeast Asia, but has recently deployed some capital in an enterprise in East Africa. And, it's looking to also expand to the larger sub-Saharan African market. And so for this specific call, I'll just like to speak about the third approach, which is networks that's actualized by Sankalp. So Sankalp brings together different stakeholders within the ecosystem. Margaret has touched on a couple of them. Others are highlighted on the slide before you, where we try and bring different stakeholders in the same space, where they can share ideas, discuss. If it's entrepreneurs, they get the opportunity to meet investors, not just within the Sankalp Awards frame, but also, by one-on-one interactions that happen during the Sankalp Summit, which is coming up in next year from 1st to 2nd of March. So this is, in summary, our approach in supporting the ecosystem. So quickly, I'll just move on to the next slide, which talks about, what's in it for you as an enterprise to apply for Sankalp. As I've mentioned, enterprises get to meet investors one-on-one. Once you join the summit, you come to the, and next year's edition is an in-person one. So, once you come to the venue, you get an opportunity to meet different stakeholders, but being a member, or rather applying for Sankalp Awards and, hopefully getting shortlisted through the process, through a criteria that I'll touch on my next slide, you get the opportunity to get some exposure. And this exposure, what we want to do with it is to help these entrepreneurs gain the visibility to the Sankalp global community of entrepreneurs, support organizations, suppliers, partners, and other key players to help you grow your business. So this is something that enterprises have leveraged in the past and have created great connections and gotten great exposure within the Sankalp Summit. Another reason
Mike,
why you should apply.
Mike, sorry to jump in. There was a comment in the chat that mentioned, if you want to go into full screen mode, I think it might be better. It's currently showing the current slide and the next slide, so you might want to adjust that in the display settings.
All right, let me just.
Yeah, much better.
All right, apologies for that.
I hope that's
great.
fine now, Kevin.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, I was sharing the wrong screen. Apologies for that. Great. So I was just going to jump into the pitch presentation, preparation rather. So it helps enter before you go to pitch to the network of investors that are going to be screening your enterprise through two screenings. That's the screening committee and the grand jury. We usually take time to prepare the company in how they're going to present their innovation or their products and services. And so, we usually go through we usually review the pitch decks that have been prepared. We structure them as per what is suitable to investors. What are the key areas that they'd be interested in understanding, in terms of the market landscape, competitor landscape. Have you done a competitor analysis? The key areas that needs to be highlighted, what's the problem, what's the solution, and so on. And so we structure the pitch decks as the way they're supposed to look. And then we also take you through sort of like mock pitches to kind of prepare you in doing the presentation, giving you feedback, and so on and so forth. So this is another great value add that comes if and when you apply and when you're also shortlisted to the awards. And then another important area, I think that's a great value add for enterprises that apply is the fact that there are introductions that are made to investors. So we hope to help enterprises unlock capital through the networks that we have. Historically, we've seen delegates to the tune of around 1,500 that attend the summit, a majority of whom are investors and other ecosystem builders that can support you or connect you to investors. So for the Sankalp Awards specifically, you get to present to a screening committee that is made up of investors, and not just investors, but investors that are investing within that specific sector that you're operating in, within the geography that you're also operating in, there's a lot of matchmaking that is done to ensure that you get to meet these investors. Apart from the screening that will happen between you and the investors, there are also other opportunities such as deal rooms that occur within the summit. So with the deal rooms, what happens is you get an opportunity to have a one-on-one with at least 2 investors that are interested in investing in your geography that you're operating in, the ticket size that you're looking to raise in, and so on. So this is another great opportunity for you to kickstart conversations with investors that have very high potential to invest in your company. And so what is the criteria that we look at when we are doing this shortlisting? So number one, we obviously look at the geography. So the edition that's coming up is the Sankalp Awards Africa. So what happens here is we look at companies that are operational in Africa. So you might be registered in a different part of the world, but we just look at companies that are operational in the global south, specifically in Africa, for this Sankalp Africa Awards. But we also have Sankalp. We also have Sankalp Global that has a more global reach in terms of. We look at now companies that are operating in the larger global south across the world. So the place where the company is registered is important because it shows that the company is registered, it's operational, but it needs to be operating in Africa for this specific edition. And then we also look at the size. So the business should be generating some revenue, and ideally it should not be in a prototyping stage or ideation stage. It should be in the revenue stage. It's done its proof of concept, it's rolled out the product or service into the market, and it's actually generating some revenues from its operation. So this is a very key criteria that factors into whether your company is going to be shortlisted or not. And then we also kind of look at the ambition of the company. So the applicant must be looking to grow their business and must have an intention to raise some commercial financing. So this is very, very important as well. And then the impact. So what's the best candidates will demonstrate a positive impact on the society or the environment. This is also very, very key, seen as we are operating in the impact ecosystem. Yeah, thanks. And then next we look at, I'll go through the focus areas. So we have about 6 key sectors that we are mostly interested in. This is agriculture, climate change and circular economy, financial inclusion, livelihoods and gender, healthcare and WASH, and then affordable housing. So if you are operating in one or two of these sectors, it's going to be very advantageous for you to apply because these are the key focus areas that we are interested in getting enterprises from. And then I'll quickly take you through the selection process. So historically, we've seen quite a number of applications that come in every edition, every year. And so we historically get about 400 to 700 applications from across the world. And from these 400 applications, we have an internal screening where we evaluate based on the criteria that I've mentioned and also the focus areas that we are interested in to get a short list of 15 enterprises. These 15 enterprises will be taken to, will get some high-level training in terms of pitching to the investors, just for them to be able to articulate their business well. And then they'll be taken through a screening process. So this is the first external screening. So the screening process is done over 2 or 3 days where the 15 enterprises are going to be pitching and then they're going to get scored. So they're going to be scored based on the criteria, the evaluation criteria that we have talked about. So, how's the business model? Or is it innovative? How does the team look like? Does it complement each other? Does it serve the purpose that the enterprise is interested in? And then we also look at the impact again. What's the impact of the enterprise? What's the operational model? What's the revenue model? And they get scored. And after this, we get another list of finalists now who go on to pitch to a grand jury. So from the 15, we get a list of 10. So these 10 companies, now get some additional support in pitching, in presenting their business, because, we have the grand jury will go into further details in evaluating the enterprises. This session as well also should be in person, but Margaret could correct me if I'm wrong. So they get to pitch to the investors in person, and they get to face questions, and the list of 10 will now get another they'd be scored again by the grand jury, and they'd be shortlisted to the final list of 3 that are going to be presented with the Sankalp Award Prize at the during the summit on 1st to 2nd. So all this is happening before the summit, but then the awards are being issued or handed to the winners during the Sankalp Summit that's coming up in March next year. So this is generally the selection process that enterprises are taken through. They get to gain a lot of value from this process. Even if they don't end up being the top 3, they still get to attend the summit itself. They still get to get introductions to investors. They still get to have opportunity to have one-on-one meetings. But the 15 to the 10 or 15 get an opportunity to go into the some curated sessions that have been prepared. Mention the deal rooms that happen with potential investors and so on and so forth. So that's basically it from me today. So I think I'll take any questions. I haven't been looking at the chats, but if there are any questions, George, kindly you could help me in just highlighting them, and then you can address them. Or if there's anyone in the room that has any questions, you could also just feel free to unmute and go ahead and ask. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. We have Mohammed Kamara from Sierra Leone. Mohammed, if you want to unmute yourself, maybe say hello, and then you can ask your question directly to Mike.
Hello, my name's Kaliangu Muhammad Kintu from Kambasco Technologies in Kampala. I just wanted to know that how the process, for example, he has taken us through the process, but when will the face-to-face process begin? At the stage of 3, at the stage of 10, or at the stage of 15? That's my first question. And then maybe the second question is that, do you have preferable technologies, or the technologies are going to be different with each applicant?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. So what happens is during the screening, so while I was presenting on the slide, I think you could remember there was 400 to 700. This is the total list of applications that come in. This go through an internal screening process where we evaluate the companies against the criteria that we have. And then we have a final list. We have a final list that is shortlisted to be presented to a screening committee. So the screening committee is made up of an external, I'd call them a jury, an external jury that evaluate these 15. And the evaluation is done on, we have a virtual pitching session that happens. So you pitch to this screening committee, and then once the screening committee evaluates your pitch scores, and a final score that is analyzed and normalized is done, we get the top 10. So these top 10 are the ones that are supposed to now pitch in person before the summit. Because remember, the summit is an in-person summit. So you, as a finalist, are expected to come physically for the summit. So before the summit kicks off, this usually is about 2 days or 1 day before the first day of the summit. So in this case would be the last day of February. You would pitch to the grand jury in person. So you'll have your presentation there. You'd pitch, address questions, and then you'll be scored. So for the final list of 10, they get an opportunity to. They're already in Nairobi, right? So they get a free entry or free ticket to join the summit, attend sessions, as many sessions as they want. They still get access to the deal rooms and all the other perks that come with being in the summit. But now during the summit itself is when we'll announce the top 3, the number 1, number 2, and number 3, who will now receive the Sankalp Award, the physical trophy in recognition of the great work that they are doing. Yeah, so that's generally the process that happens. So it's the 10 that come to physically to Nairobi for the summit, and then the 15 usually pitch virtually. Thank you. I hope that was clear. Yeah, thanks for the introductions. I'm seeing yeah, very great enterprises making introductions. Yeah,
and Mike, I can see some good participation from many different countries. I think I see someone from Uganda, Sierra Leone. I see someone from Malawi. I see someone from South Sudan, which is really encouraging. I don't think we've had an enterprise from South Sudan. Mohammed, your hand is up. I will ask you to please unmute yourself. If you can, please come on video as well so we can see you. And then please go ahead and ask your question. Mike, as Mohammed asks his question, I'll also kind of scan through the chat to see what other questions are coming in and pose them to you. Go ahead, Mohammed.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, yes. Thank you very much for this session. It's been very, very wonderful. I've learned a lot, and I'm happy to be here. My question is, we have a small startup company that is focused on the energy access to community. But the energy access is solving two challenges through electrification and as well as food production, because the power is utilized to bring irrigation to farming communities. And of course, I know it's a smart climate initiative. My question is, does initiatives like this fall within the thematic area you guys are focusing on? If yes, then I can let know. Thank you.
I'm not sure if I caught that. George, did you catch that?
No.
Mohammed, do you mind just repeating the question? It wasn't very clear. Maybe move closer to the mic and then
I think
speak a bit louder. Yeah.
I think, Mohammed, if you're able to move closer to the microphone, it might make it a little more clearer.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's better. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yes, my question is, we work in energy space. The energy solution that we are providing is to bring electricity to our community, but the solution as well is impacting food production, because the energy power, the power that we are having from this solution is as well bringing energy to communities that are doing agriculture to allow our users to be involved in productive use of electricity and then produce irrigation solutions that can allow our farmers to all year have farming all year round access. So the initiatives like this fall within this next area.
Mohammed, I don't know. I couldn't hear it again. I'm really sorry. Maybe do you want? Yeah, please just type it on the chat and then we'll address it. Really sorry about that. But thank you for the question. We'll address it. I think I can see Bob Oyuru. Bob?
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Yeah.
So mine is about the users and revenue. You mentioned that it's a key aspect for the judges. When it comes to fintechs, is there like a specific revenue amount is expected for especially startups? Or if someone has 2 users, that would also count as as something.
Yeah. Thanks for the question, Bob. And I think I'll also address the second question that came in. I think was it from I can't remember. So it was asking about the preferable tech. So is there any preferences? And I think that also is what you are asking right now. So our goal as Intellecap, as Sankalp, is to support early stage enterprises. That's why the amount of ticket size that you should be looking to raise is between 100K to 1 million, not above that, because we might not be able to introduce you to any investor that's doing ticket sizes that are higher than $1 million. So in that way, then there are no set preferences in terms of the sector in terms of the type of the technology that you're using. It could also just not even necessarily be a technology company. It could be an innovative business that's maybe modeled on a previous brick and mortar business model and has just evolved, and it's innovative, and that innovativeness is demonstrated by the fact that there are many you have onboarded many customers, or you've been able to grow quite rapidly over a short period of time. So there's no set preferences as long as the business model makes sense, and it's a business model that's innovative enough. I think that should cut it. Historically, we've actually even showcased some businesses. It happens very rarely, but it happens. Some businesses that are just out of the ideation stage, just have just started to make some revenues, or have run a pilot, and that pilot has been overly successful, and so they could be considered for investment, especially if it's an area where we are seeing a lot of interest from investors, as well as a lot of also companies that are coming up with innovative businesses. So there are no preferences in terms of the business model. It just has to show it's very innovative, and it has a high potential to help or circumvent some of the challenges that are being faced by the people that are at the bottom of the proverbial pyramid. Yeah, I hope I addressed. I hope I addressed the question. I think I saw Mohammed had. Mohammed, maybe you've not typed in, but there's a question: what is the maximum prize for the winners? So the Sankalp Awards does not award a cash prize for the winners, and that's why we've kind of just tried to highlight some of the perks, the benefits that come with being showcased in the awards. We do not give a cash prize. You get you get an opportunity to go on the stage and just share a little bit more on your business. You get the opportunity to meet investors, very many investors. As I said, we get very many attendees, 1,000 plus attendees that join the summit. So, and some of these or most of these are investors, depending on the year. So you get an opportunity to meet the people that you should be looking to for investment, who are operating or investing in your country, investing in your sector, and you get an opportunity to get one-on-one meetings with them, explain your business, and follow on these conversations. Historically, we've seen great success in this, with very many of our alumni raising capital from these introductions that we've helped them in developing. So I think that's the value. So there's, just to reiterate, there's no cash prize that's given out to the winners, but there's still a lot to be gained from the introductions to investors that we make. Yeah. Looking at any questions, right? What are the examples of initiatives that fall in the climate change? Yeah, I think. Okay, let me just address this Mohammed's question.
Yeah, I think, Mike, I think what Mohammed is asking is whether an initiative that provides electricity to farming communities and helps farmers increase productivity through irrigation would qualify for something like this.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, and you could also, if you're using a solar-powered irrigation pumps, that's obviously could fall under climate change, could fall under clean energy as well. So I think, yes, that you are definitely within the focus areas that we are looking at. So just, yeah, submit your application in that case.
Then I think, Mike, there was another question from, let me just quickly find it.
Yeah, as we're looking at for that.
Yeah.
Okay, let me address Peter's here because I can see it on my screen. Peter's asking, apart from connections with investors, what other support do you offer to the organizations? So said we also help them in pitching. Some enterprises or entrepreneurs have had experience in pitching their businesses before, and sometimes maybe you might find that they have it has not always been successful. So we really peek into this and try and understand why, your pitch, or rather why you've not raised before. If you've had engagements with the different investors, we really try and give you feedback in your pitch, in your pitch deck itself, because we do a lot of, we help you in reordering your pitch if it needs reordering, in adding information that's really important for an investor. I'll just quickly touch on an example. We usually have investors, of course, they give you money, and even though they impact investors, they have the hope of recouping the investment at some point. It could be patient capital, but it's still, you still need to repay it at some point. So what investors usually look for in a business is to see, has your business broken even, or when would your business be able to break even? And one ratio that is really important to be included is like the EBITDA margin that needs to come into a slide that explains your financials, your revenues, your sales, your EBITDA and your EBITDA margin. So if you have a positive EBITDA margin, it shows you're already broken even and you're a profitable business. So a company might or might not have such a slide. This is just one of the many examples that we try and include in the slides. So we really do this from the experience that we've gotten working with these investors, to try and improve your pitch to be very attractive to the investors. So I think that's a very great value add. Apart from that, the exposure that you get from attending the summit is also great. You don't only get to meet investors, but other players in the ecosystem. You might be looking for suppliers, you might be looking for distributors, you might be looking for someone who has a network of customers. If you're offering services to farmers, and you meet an enterprise that has a database of 20,000, 50,000 farmers within the geography that you're interested in. See, that's another opportunity. So I think the opportunities that are within the summit are limitless, and it's a great place to exploit this opportunity to try and grow your business.
Thanks for that, Mike. Really, fantastic responses. And I think if you have any follow-up questions, you can either put your hand up and we will, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question directly once you're called upon, or you can also put it in the chat box in case you don't want to go ahead and unmute. Agrippa Maposa from, sorry, Mike. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, George. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, Agrippa had asked whether, the 10 will receive support for transport and other logistics. So that's definitely going to be something we consider, but it's on a case-by-case basis. For folks that are in Nairobi, we definitely would not, expect to give any transport allowance or any kind of stipend to come for the event that's actually in Nairobi. But for some of the others, when you are selected, or if you are selected, we can consider that on a case-by-case basis, just based on need. So, that's something we're definitely open to. But and once you are selected, we will be kind of contacting you to figure that out. Once the screening committee members have looked at the enterprises. Yeah. Agrippa had also asked Mike whether there's any possibility to close deals at Sankalp.
Well, there's opportunities to get a very highly interested investor. As you know, some of these discussions, because if you meet an investor, it does not guarantee you get the investment the next day. Okay. And then one other thing that I should note is, it's usually investors that are looking to invest in equity and or debt. We do not have very many investors that are giving out grants at Sankalp. So that's usually it. But the due diligence process takes some time. Preparing the term sheets and so on and so forth takes some time. But what we do is we can play a role of an intermediary. If you get an investor and there's you need some hand holding in navigating the investment readiness like roadmap, from meeting these investors to actually closing that deal. We do that as well. But before we do that, we usually have it's called we have an agreement where we kind of say, if you raise this much, we might maybe get a fee of this much. But that's agreed between Intellecap and the enterprise. But we usually really do a lot of hand holding and play the role of an intermediary in trying to navigate the investment waters on behalf or together with the enterprise. Yeah, but there are some enterprises that have closed deals after meeting investors at Sankalp. Of course, not immediately, but it takes, I think on average, it takes nine months to do due diligence, according to a report. So it takes some time, but it's a great place to start because you now get to meet an investor and then carry on that journey or those conversations after Sankalp. Yeah, I think I addressed the question from Peter.
Yeah. Mike, I think there's another one from Yogesh Gawande, who's based in Maharashtra, India. Yogesh is asking, he's saying they're into manufacturing of simple, innovative, and low-cost, women-friendly agri-equipment. Are they eligible for this if they are based out of India?
If they are operational in Africa, yes. If they have like a very strong distribution network or a very strong local partner, then they are advised to apply. But if they're operational only in India or Southeast Asia, maybe you might need to wait for next year's edition of the Sankalp Global that takes applications from across the globe.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mike. The Sankalp Global Summit is most likely going to be hosted in October of 2023. And Yogesh, for you, that would definitely be the best place to put in your application. I have put in the application, the link to more information on the Sankalp Awards, in this chat, and I'll just take it and paste it again in the chat box. So go ahead and take a look at that. You can go through the awards form just to see, the award programs that you can apply for. John Tusasirwe from Uganda asks, what does it take for someone to join the summit? Is attendance only on winning the prize? So no, you can go ahead and purchase your ticket. I'll put in a link to the website in the chat box now, so you can go ahead and take a look at that. The entrepreneur tickets to the summit are sort of the lowest priced. So, we've really taken into account that you guys are actually entrepreneurs, and, we've ensured that ticket prices are equitable across the spectrum. So please go ahead and book your ticket, take advantage of the prices that we currently have now. And please, go ahead, book your tickets and come and attend the summit in Nairobi. Yeah, I see a couple of hands up. Preeti, would you like to go ahead and ask your question? And then maybe after you, we can have Matata Safi Juma.
Sure. So my question is whether, first of all, my sector, qualifies to participate in this. We are into herbal skincare products and also other home essentials, which are all sustainable, and tea, herbal tea. So we are working with some African women, one in Ghana, where she's our official partner. And right now we are just discussing with somebody in Kenya. So we want to launch some products. So has it has to be in one of these sectors, or it can be other products as well?
Yes, I think, yeah. So as I can recap on the sectors: agriculture, climate change and circular economy, financial inclusion, livelihoods and the gender, healthcare and WASH, and then affordable housing. So it depends on where you source the product. So if are they natural, do you work together with smallholder farmers, because that now brings in the impact side of things. So if that's the case, then I think you'd be eligible to apply under the agriculture sector. Or also maybe livelihoods, depending on, are you also distributing using maybe small local shops, or depending on the distribution model, could that product be considered like an FMCG, and then that would now make it eligible to be like under the livelihood sector. So it really depends on how the business model itself is structured, and how it meets the different criteria that we're looking at. So if it's working with the people from the bottom of the pyramid, then it's definitely, it has an impact side to it. if it's within Africa, as you said, Nigeria, then it
Yes.
fits into the geography. If you're working with, if you're growing this agricultural products and not just of taking them from, some aggregator somewhere, then it also falls under the agriculture sector. So in that sense, then you'd be eligible to apply pretty.
Definitely. So I'll apply for it. And as you said, there's a category wash. So we have skincare products. So, and they're all natural. And we procure from farmers, whatever ingredients are needed. So, maybe it will fall under multiple sectors. And under climate change, what exactly are you considering?
Yes, so under climate change, these are enterprises that have interventions that are circumventing the effects of climate change. So it could be like I think Mohammed had mentioned, and he didn't say whether it's solar irrigation or not. So that could fall under climate
Yes.
change.
Correct.
Yeah,
So we
could...
also use solar dried herbs, and our production process is also very sustainable on similar lines.
Yeah. And then it's climate change and circular economy. So if you have it's called if your production process is follows a circular economy model where whatever you produce whatever waste you produce does not go to waste and is reused as well. It could also be bucketed in as a circular economy, and because it's also it's reducing the amount of waste, that could also be under climate change. So these sectors usually have a lot of synergies, but depending on the type of business that you're in, you basically just cling on the sector that you're most suited in. But also, if you're operating in multiple sectors as well, it's also great to highlight that, because that means then you're having impact on different sectors. So it's so just highlight all the sectors, but in the application there's a tab where you select the key sector that you're operational in, and then a subsector. So maybe you could depending on where you're strongest in, you pick that sector and go with it.
I will.
All right. So if there are no more questions, I'll pass it back over to Margaret and George. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, Mike, I think there was maybe one question from, he put his hand down. So I'm going to try and look for him in the list of participants. Bob, Matata. Yes, Matata, please go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Glad to be here. I'm Matata Safi from South Sudan. I'm the CEO and Managing Director of Hagan Agro Processing Company. We are in the value chain for peanuts, sesame, and honey. We basically partner with the smallholder farmers to supply our factory. My internet has been not very stable. The question, I had actually posted it on the chat. From the time when the calls for the awards will close, how long will we expect to hear from you on the progress of whether we are we are making to the next level? Thank you.
All right. Great. So I think there's no fixed time, but I think I'd say at least 2 weeks at least, because if we have 700 applications and we have to take them all through the internal screening, looking at every detail that all these companies have filled, that might take a little bit more time. If it's maybe 400 or 200, maybe that might take a shorter time, but at least 2 weeks before you get an email from Sankalp just to notify you on your progress. If you've been shortlisted, you'll get an email. If you've not been shortlisted, you will also get an email. Yes, and then now you proceed to the next level.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I would say between 2 to 3 weeks, just because Christmas is quickly coming up after the deadline, which is on the 15th. So we'll try and get back to you as quickly as we can, Matata. Yeah, but some of the team members might be taking some time off, so and we would want them to go and at least have some time with their families. But we'll try and get back to you as quickly as we can, post evaluation. So please, look out for our emails, and we'll definitely, notify you on whether your enterprise has moved to the next step or not. Thanks for that, Mike.
Asante.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, George. Have a good day, everyone.
Right.
Bye.
Right. Thank you. In case you have any more questions, please feel free to email us, and we'll get back to you. Maggie, if you want to pop the email ID, they can write into the chat box. I think in case anyone has any questions, they can write to us there.
Can I ask one more question before we break?
Yeah, please go ahead, Peter.
Yes, I actually tried applying on the platform, but kept getting an error when submitting. So it was just loading on the screen. I've tried it like 2 or 3 times. So I don't know what could be the issue. I sent a screenshot to the email that was addressed. Can someone kindly address that email?
Yes, we will take a look at that and come back to you, Peter. Thank you for flagging that. I mean, we
already sent it to the technical team, so they're working on it, and then I can come back to you, and let you know what they want you to do.
Okay, thank you.
Peter, in case you want to try something, please use Google Chrome and try it on an incognito browser. Sometimes I know the cache may be having an issue, especially on your machine. So maybe try it on Google Chrome and on an incognito browser. Just try and submit everything there. And in case you have any more issues, just send us a screenshot or an email, and we'll be able to sort it out.
Thanks, George.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks, Asante. Thanks, everyone.